Which is, those are in October or?
It's the middle of October,
Middle of
yeah.
There he is, right under the wire. Are we all set back there? All set? Okay. Good evening and welcome to the Carlisle Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, September 10th, 2019. The following agenda, we will try to keep as closely as possible, but we do sometimes take things out of order. 7 p.m. Community input, 7:05 update in regard to the Kindergarten program. At 7:30, Town Administrator's report on additional fiscal 21 departmental personnel requests. At 8 p.m. Update concerning the Complete Streets project and finalize the committee charge. 8:15, finalize the October 7th, 2019 special town meeting warrant. At 9, appointments and resignations. At 9:10, cemetery deeds. 9:15, town administrators report. 9:25, the liaison reports. 9:35, minutes, and 9:45, adjournment. So, our part of the agenda where we invite public community input. Did you want to speak, Nancy? Yeah.
I'm Nancy Pierce. Can you hear me? Is this working? I live at 1152 Westford Street. I'm in a butter to the tower that's proposed for 1110 Westford Street. I'm just going to summarize a statement that I put in the form of a letter to you as quickly as I can. I'm asking for the Board of Selectmen to consider restricting the use of the communications tower to not have any commercial service whatsoever, to protect us and any future buyers from additional harm that might be caused, either health risks or financial loss, from having additional radiation frequencies on the tower. I've been told that this is not necessary. We've been told over and over again that this is not necessary because we're protected by the cell tower bylaw. But we have clear evidence in our neighborhood that the cell tower bylaw has holes. There is an abutter to the Sorley cell tower who objected to being an abutter to that tower within 300 feet of that tower. So what that tells me is that we're not fully protected even though we're within the 900-foot boundary of the communications tower. I also think that as leaders of the town who have concern for all the citizens, not just the citizens who are protected by public safety responders, that you ought to welcome the chance to keep us from further harm. We've been told that despite whatever our losses or whatever the harm is or the interruption to our peace and quiet, that this is absolutely necessary, that the tower must be there, that it's vital for public safety communications. If that's the case, if it's really just for public safety communications, there wouldn't be any interference if there's a restriction on cell service, but it would be a great relief to us, and it would also help us convince potential buyers that the risk is not going to be increased by having that tower there. This all assumes that there is going to be an article on the special town meeting warrant that approves the locations being changed from the 4 that were named in Article 19 in May 2019. If there isn't, I'm not quite sure exactly what you can do, but I ask that you really try as hard as you can to give us that additional protection. Thank you.
Any further community input? Okay, seeing none. We have an update on the Timber Nook program. You want to come to the table?
Good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting us back. We wanted to come. We are planning on starting our program next Tuesday. And we were invited back just to give an update, answer any questions. We do have an updated copy of our certificate of insurance because it expired in July, so we have an updated copy for.
Did you run a
whoever
program this summer? Finally, weren't you going to start in,
No, we were starting this fall.
oh, it was to start this
Yeah, it
fall,
was
and
to
then you were
start
going to
this
come again in March.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And this is a little more finely detailed proposal than you had the first time
Yes.
around.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I think everybody's read the proposal. Did you want to make a little presentation as well? Or,
So we are part of Minuteman ARC, which is the Human Services Organization. We service people with developmental disabilities from birth through the end of their life. This is one of our programs that does that. We will service both children who have disabilities as well as children who do not. We feel that's a very important core component, is bringing those two sets of children together. There are camps for children with special needs and camps for children without, but rarely do you see the two together, and we feel that's a very important and missing piece. The other thing that sets us apart from other programs, we are not a camp, we are a program, and we run year-round, is the ability for unstructured play for children, getting them outside, getting them strong by being able to run and jump and work on their balance by walking over logs and using tools outside, digging in the dirt to strengthen their hands for handwriting, all those things that many of us did as children that children are not doing today. Getting children outside and playing is a very hot topic right now in education and in child development. You've probably seen some of it. There was an article in the Globe recently about it. And we want to bring this program to our community, to Carlisle and the greater surrounding communities for the benefit of all our children. And another very important component of our program is teaching the parents. A lot of parents have a lot of fear of their children and what they're able to do and whether they're going to be safe. We used to go play outside on the street and came in when it became dark. That is not always the situation in all communities. This is a way to get children outside, still provide them with a safe environment, stand back, let the children learn to resolve their own conflicts, let them learn to build and use their imaginations, but do it in a way that's safe. Because unfortunately, many times we can't just turn our kids out on the streets anymore.
There has been some publications and talks since the last time we met about this happening, and there is a really good buzz about it. We have about 70 families on our mailing list, interested parties, combination of parents that want to volunteer, or professionals that want to work with us. We do have a group that is ready to begin. Per our discussion for the September session, it would be a parent-child group, so our Tiny Ones program. So getting started with that. We have 6 parents?
We have 7 now. Seven children. I believe 3 are from the town of Carlisle, and with a caregiver, because this is our younger group. It's 18 months to age 4. And so it'll be 7 children. It's not going to quite be 7 adults because there's a couple of 2 children in there, so probably 5 adults. as well as Maggie and I, and a volunteer that will be working with us.
And that'll be Tuesday mornings from 10 to
10 to
11,
12.
10 to 12, and then we would go before and after for setup and breakdown and all that.
Tim, are we still okay with this being kind of the emergency rain location?
Yeah, I don't see any, drawback to that.
And we don't actually conduct our program inside. So if it is really torrentially raining and we can't be outside, we would, to be safe, we would egress into town hall, notify parents, and they would pick them up. Our program is completely outdoors. It's a sensory nature program. So if it's raining, we're going to continue the program. It's when it becomes a safety issue that we need to take shelter. And then as soon as the safety issue is over, we would either go back outside or we would call the parents. We don't conduct programs outside.
And your plan is to get this equipment delivered before Tuesday, this list of things?
Yes, we would like, if we can't get them all up by Tuesday, because now we're beginning to run up, into some time crunch, we can start with, without all those pieces in place and continue to add every week, to get the site up to how we would like it to be. Swings are an integral part of our program. The vestibular stimulation that the children receive from swinging is one thing that a lot of kids are now missing. And it's a big foundational skill for all your sensory awareness and processing, your self-regulation. You'll be able to sit and attend in class. It feeds into all of those. I am an occupational therapist. That is my background. I've been working for over 25 years in pediatrics occupational therapy. And this program was developed by an occupational therapist in New Hampshire who was going into schools, consulting with the schools on what they could do to help the children. And it got completely back to this program.
We do have everything needed to start for this program.
I have to say, I was surprised at some of the list here, because when we had originally talked about it, I didn't get the picture of a lot of physical equipment that you now have in here. Thought it was much more, maybe a couple of ropes that you're going to tie to twigs and branches that you found on the ground. And now, now I see storage shed, picnic tables, the bricks, which I'm not quite clear what that is. The wooden spool, I know what that is, but it concerns me that where it's going to be in the woods and for how long. And the other thing that concerns me is the language here saying it's a nature program on Carlisle town land, specifically Conant Woods, but it sounds like it might be somewhere else, or that you think it may be other places as well, or did you mean exclusively? Exclusively. So if we could clarify that language before we signed that.
Sure.
I would like to make it crystal clear that it's only Conant,
Sure.
and not just only
Yeah.
Other places.
other
You mean-
places.
To me, specifically means kind of the same thing, but I'm fine with
Well-
it being changed.
Do you mean other places in Carlisle?
Yeah.
Or yes, no, yeah.
Yeah, well, because it says nature programs on Carlisle town land, specifically Conant Woods, but it also,
see.
to me, that left it open that it could be other places.
I see.
I mean, it's,
At some point, if the program spreads, we might run the same program in another place somewhere else. But we would have to, so it's not exclusively only ever going to be in Carlisle. But we're certainly not spreading out in Carlisle anywhere we don't have your permission to go.
so, but I guess that still leaves me the question about other people using the Conant land. If they're on a trail, are they going to run into your program, or are you off the trail? Where is your equipment hanging and for how long? Things like that kind of raised little flags for me that I had not considered the last time you were here, because I didn't get that same sort of sensation that you were kind of moving in with a lot of equipment.
Yes.
That's going to be
That,
permanently
the
there.
program itself is fairly flexible. So that was kind of what we started with, was the basics and what we needed to discuss. On our follow-up meeting with Mr. Utter, we kind of brought up some other things that would be helpful to the program and help make it easier. And so we were typing this under the pretense that those had already kind of somewhat been discussed and brought up, but hoping to clarify a little bit more what your reservations and thoughts might be,
Well,
open to
can
hear
you-
suggestions.
First of all, can you explain, are you going to put out the equipment and then it'll stay there for the duration of your program?
Yes.
Or are you thinking they
Does it come up
get
and
removed?
down every day?
Well, and that depends on what equipment we're talking about, and again, it's all flexible.
Yeah.
Anything that you don't approve, we're not going to bring out. That is why we would like the storage shed, because many of the things we can put in the storage shed, so they're not just sitting around out there. Other things we'll bring with us specific to that day. So we don't use all this equipment every program we run. Each program has a theme. Our first theme is apples. And so we set up a station where kids are washing and learning to cut and beginning to use apples. We bring a couple of kids' carts, and they cart the apples around, a couple of baskets, they're carrying them. So we would just have that equipment. It would be nice if we could always have a tarp. It would be nice if we could have the spool, because we use it in a lot of different ways, for a table for the kids, to roll, et cetera, to build with. Like the bricks that you mentioned, they would stay inside the shed. That would be something that would stay in the shed, and we bring it out. One of the programs is the Three Little Pigs. So the kids get an opportunity to build with twigs, with hay, and with stones. So the bricks are used, that's where the bricks are used. So not everything is out there all the time. Some of the heavy stuff, it would be nice to be able to put in the shed so that we are not lugging it every time into the woods. Some of the smaller things that we would be
The
bringing.
shed would be in the woods, it wouldn't be in the parking lot, for instance.
I prefer it to be in the woods, just because it's a kind of a trek back there. But it's your land, and we're certainly here to work with you.
But the swings are removable.
Yes.
The tarp is something that would be removable. As of now, we don't have a spool. Again, we're starting this program with the tiny ones, so I don't think there's anything that
They
couldn't
use
be
the
moved
least
right
amount
up
of
to-
equipment.
Yeah, that would not be removable, at least for a session. It's all about kind of, what's our best case scenario versus
Yeah.
where can we meet in the middle.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would think that would ideally stay out there are the circle of stumps, which would not be on the trail.
At least
It'd
those look
be-
natural.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
and that's,
That's why I'm,
Exactly.
let me tell
We
you,
want it to look
that is
natural.
what Timber Nook is all about. It's about the natural. It's about getting the kids back in nature. That is our whole push. We don't bring plastic out into the woods. I won't say absolutely none completely, but, we are going and we are collecting. We're going to the thrift shops and we're getting old metal spades and metal buckets and wooden baskets. That is our whole thing. We're not about the toys they can play with in their home and in their daycare center and in their school and everywhere else. So,
So I do remember that, you did mention the picnic tables when you were here last time, and the tent.
I wonder if I was
and-
not here.
And the tarp and the porta potty. I don't recall the two bigger porta potties, but I just have a couple questions is, one, and this is black and white, but,
Yeah.
online, these be brown and not the blue,
what is it?
the porta potty.
Well, we're actually right now not even using porta potties. What we
Okay.
have is a green pop-up tent that will come up and down just during that 2 hours that we're out there. And we have a camping porta potty.
Yeah, so that's here too, so you're not
Yes.
gonna be doing both.
No, no.
No, again, this was our kind of full list of everything that could ever
that's-
possibly
that- I think
benefit our
that's what we're
program.
Yeah, that's what-
Shoot for the moon, they say,
I
right?
thought you were moving in.
Yeah. But it
I
would-
actually thought the list was a little light.
Yeah, right? Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Mr. Hassel. So, as it pertains to the porta potties, it would be something that I think we could hopefully revisit in March as we look for summer programming, because then we're looking at those long days, we're looking at larger kids, older kids, and, you guys have been gracious enough to say that if needed, people could use these bathrooms, but obviously in that kind of a scenario, it would be.
I don't have any problem with the porta potties. I think maybe
I agree with the
I'll give you
color.
my view in 1 second, but, just not the green or the blue or whatever it was in that picture. I think, they have brown ones. And that's-
Yes.
And I would say if you're gonna have them, make it so that they're lockable, so that when you're not there, they're locked.
Okay.
And if you have them, if you could just put your shed right behind them, so that we don't have
Okay.
two things.
Yeah,
that
all
are-
right,
that are
yes,
hanging
there's-
out there. But I guess the way I look at this is, we've approved the use of this to test it out.
Yes.
And we can't expect that there's no impact, right, at all, right? It's going to be used, there's going to be things there, it's part of the program, and I think we just see how it goes, and, well, I support it, and I support these items as long as those porta potties aren't.
Yeah.
That-
I don't think it's a matter of not supporting, there's a lot of detail in this documentation
Yeah.
here.
Mhm.
And, when you put in, for the traffic control, that there's a dirt parking lot rarely used by others.
Yes, that
that's
wasn't good.
Unfortunately, not true.
Right.
It is used a lot by others, and there's some days where it's totally full. So, and I'm not sure how you would do this traffic circle, so, I mean, that's something that I think we would want to monitor during your, excuse me, during your test run.
Right.
And then the other thing that I reacted to was, I'm not quite sure how far off the path you're going, because you were talking about, the stranger, citing a stranger. And if somebody's just walking their dog on the path, I mean, I would, I
No.
mean, this is worse, that would, talk about,
What we did was we included into our procedures and policies many of the things that recreational camps need, because we want to do best practices. We're not a camp, we can't meet all of those things, but we want to do best practices. We want to make this safe for the children, safe for the town. That is something that is in those regulations, that, if there's someone wandering around, you make sure you acknowledge them and make sure that that's about protecting the children.
Okay.
We're not going to be accosting people walking their dogs or,
that's,
So
I guess
that's where that
I'm-
came
yes,
from.
And these kids will never be left anywhere.
Never.
Because there aren't coyotes back there.
Never,
Yes.
Okay.
never.
Yeah.
An occasional moose.
And we're really not planning on going super
Depending on
far
the year
back
of
either.
theirs.
No, we
Yeah.
take the step back tune in very seriously. So it's something that we spend a lot of time being trained on how to accurately tune in and step in when needed, but making sure we're not popping that kind of adult bubble to affect their experience.
Right.
So.
Just one thing I'm thinking about, there's some concern in town, even though we're not considered a critical area, about Triple E. And so I notice here that you have an evening program that's starting on October 25th, 6 to 9 p.m. Now, I believe that, according to the Board of Health, they're considering issuing something similar to what Concord's doing.
That's for this week.
And
Yes.
so, but, I know as soon as there's a hard frost, that danger should be over, and who knows if by October 25th we've had that or not. But have you thought about that?
We have thought about it. I actually pulled up the latest, Triple E risk
Right.
today,
Yes.
and so we are in the moderate. I'm certainly going to be watching this. Again, I don't want to expose children to, something that is going to hurt them. That's not my goal. So if this moves into higher critical and we feel we need to postpone this until later in the year, we will do that. We will work with you all. If you decide as a town that you don't want us there, we're willing to work with that.
Okay.
I was looking at the one in October, we may have to bump it back into November.
Yeah.
Again, the beauty of our program is we go year-round, whether it's snowing. We might have to change the program we plan to run, but we run regardless.
Yeah.
So,
And we also have families, about 7 families signed up for that already as well.
yes, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So I just have a couple of questions, man.
No, absolutely.
So like the storage shed and the picnic tables, do you have your name on them? Is it branded?
Yeah.
Yeah, because Tim's gonna get 400 phone calls. Oh, there's a storage shed. Yeah,
Yeah.
and, so I think that would be nice, just have
Okay.
some sort of, identifying
Already
thing. And then what might be nice is people are gonna use the picnic tables, I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Is to have some informational stuff on there, just brochures or whatnot. So when people go, oh, who's picnic table, you can actually,
Yeah.
pick up a brochure. I mean, it might help for advertising, but also
Yeah.
too, people just wonder, why are these things out
Right.
here? And, I think Carlisle as a whole would probably be very supportive of programs like this. So,
I
so
agree.
I think, I think just putting that information out there is only gonna benefit you guys.
And also, I think
I agree.
just a small piece to the mosquito
Yeah.
would be very
Yep.
helpful to inform the
Local
town that this is
paper.
what's going on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
It comes out weekly.
Yeah, we've actually been in the mosquito. They did a whole article on us, I'll be happy to share with you.
When was that?
It was,
A while
ran,
back?
it was about the first meeting, but it
Yeah.
ran quite recently, though.
Oh, good.
I was just gonna say, it might be nice, just again, for
in
information
August.
to
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah.
to have a little press release that says our,
Yeah.
our first program is beginning,
Yeah.
beginning on September 17th. I mean, well, it's too late to get it in this
They'll
week.
probably send a
but
photographer out.
Get it in next.
They
Actually, that would be
probably
good.
will, yeah.
That would be good.
Follow up with them.
Perfect. And one more thing on the picnic table, what we have right now is not a wood one, because what I got was one that folded, so that we could stick it in the shed.
Oh,
So we have one, it'll fold, it'll stick in the shed, maybe again, as this program grows, if it does, if it works for everyone, we may look at a wooden one that's permanently out there, but right now what we have is one folding one that will.
But I do love the idea of maybe one of those waterproof little plastic things that you could stick on the shed with little
Yeah,
brochures.
that would be great,
That
yeah.
goes with the property of, that's a good
Yeah, 'cause,
idea.
Yeah, people will be interested.
Exactly.
And Tim will get calls, what's timber now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
we
that's
have that type of town. People call about bottles on the street. you know?
Yes.
I mean, really, in the police blotter, look, bottle
Yeah.
on the street. Then the bottle disappeared,
Yeah.
like an hour
Yeah.
later.
and you do see kids outside here. I mean, it is a great town, I think, for the program itself, so.
I think it's fantastic.
I'm very supportive of it. It's a great idea. One other thing I want to mention, just as the Board of Selectmen liaison to the bow hunting deer committee we have here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, we do have, as one of the parcels that we are allowing bow hunters to hunt on, is the Conant land. And so, I can share with you the specific map of the Conant land and where those parcels are. There's a
Perfect.
significant setback from the trails themselves, and we're very confident it's a safe activity and trail use can continue as usual. But if you were thinking of actually bushwhacking seriously into the woods,
Yeah.
then you'd want to know.
We'd wanna
Yeah,
know.
where
yeah,
you're
I guess that
going.
was one of the other questions, because you did talk about brush clearing. And
Yes.
again, it's like,
Well, yeah, and so what that means is there's areas that have a lot of limbs down and some fallen trees. And where we put the stumps that we sit around in a circle on, that area would be nice just to pull those off to the side. That's
okay,
what
that's
we're
what you mean
looking
by
at.
brush.
That's what
I-
we
You're
mean.
not going
Poison
to be
ivy.
going with, yeah, all right. I just,
Yeah, if there's-
again, it's, there's,
Yeah,
Exactly.
as I said, when you did the first presentation, it seemed to be very, very little disruption, and then suddenly I'm reading this, and it just seemed like there was a lot more going on the property in terms of changing the nature of the property itself.
Right.
So that's what I'm just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page with that.
Anyway,
Understood.
I'll send you that information.
Perfect.
It starts October 5th.
Okay.
And I can just use this
So
email
which
here,
ones of
right?
these-
Okay. I'm done.
Okay. All right. So, of this schedule, which ones have you, will be happening before you come back again? Because it's not until March that you come back, right?
Correct.
So you're going all the way through the February 28th one?
Yes.
Yep.
And the one, we had two listed on there. I don't know if you have the older one or if you have the newer one, but we advertised for Friday for a 4 to 7-year-old because a couple of the schools don't
On the
have.
28th?
Yeah,
This is
and
7 to 12.
not on the
16.
October one, on the,
Oh,
In February?
in September. No, I'm
oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry. Okay, so there's a
Yeah,
Friday,
there's a 9 to 12.
Friday's 9 to
Yeah, 4 to
12.
7.
Right, that one, we had no one sign up for, so that one is not going.
So-
Um,
Six-
Two-night
This
programs
very
on the
first
time.
one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Got
the
it.
second one, I think. is
The
not-
second one, the
Oh, the
first one.
second one,
Seven-
cancel, oh, the one that says
Fridays.
canceled.
Yes.
You're looking at an old
I'm looking at
thing.
an old
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, look
Okay.
at that, look at the.
The new one.
So we would ideally be
Right.
running that tiny ones all the way through March.
Got it.
You know, some of this is about growing word of mouth and growing the program. What we
Yeah.
do know is that we have the 5-week tiny one enrolled, locked, loaded, ready to go.
The one that's September
Yeah.
17th.
Yeah, that one and
And
the
if all these fill
Friday
up-
night one.
If all these
Right.
fill up, you've got it all scheduled out all the way through
Yeah.
the end of February.
Yeah, it wouldn't be outside of that realm, but it could be less depending on sign up.
Right,
Okay.
Get it?
right, okay.
Do we need a motion to have Tim sign this? Or Tim, do you feel you can just do this?
Unless you want to do the chair. Yep.
No,
that-
no,
I'm
I'm
happy
happy
either
to
way.
have you do it.
Do we need a motion or do we?
That's what I was asking,
Yeah.
is if,
Not
did we,
really.
do we even need a motion? You have our support, you
Yeah.
know, certainly have our support to sign that.
Okay,
Okay.
good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very, very much.
Oh, there were just we were wondering,
Oh, yeah.
I guess it's not gonna be applicable for this session, but, down the road, I suppose we could discuss that in March. Do you guys have, I guess we're looking for like a four-wheeler or any sort of man that, or woman that does maintenance here that would have like a vehicle that,
Do you all ever
Transported
take any
into the
kind of a
woods?
Oh.
vehicle back in the woods?
do
for
you have
any
anything
kind
like
of
that?
Try the police department.
Yeah.
Or the
they-
DPW.
They have,
Right, yeah.
And then,
The Trails Committee
Something
has
to be
some.
able to
Yeah,
get something
that's
back.
true.
Yeah, the Trails
Yeah, like if
Committee
we do
is-
have the spool,
Yeah,
getting
we
the
can,
spool.
we can work
back
with
in there.
DPW on that.
Yeah.
the final question being regarding fires, and if there are ever fires out there specifically for night programs that would be in the cold, especially if we did it in November,
that was the other thing, yeah,
what
the
the
fire pit.
possibility would be for bringing a portable fire
Fire
ring
ring
bowl
or
out
fire,
there in order for the heat, for the
The fire
warmth,
chief, no.
Yeah.
Check with the fire.
with the permit
Okay.
for the fire department that would, okay.
Yeah, just let them know
Probably,
when and where
yeah.
you're gonna be.
Okay,
They'll give
great,
you a
thank
permit.
They could probably just spray it from there.
Yeah.
Right.
That never got out of control,
They might come with some hot dogs. But so, yeah, you'll work with them, with Gary to help them get the stuff
Yeah,
out there?
yeah. Whenever you need a vehicle, we'll just work with them.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate it. We're very excited about this program.
Sounds like
We're
fun, yeah.
Very happy and appreciative that you all are allowing us to kick it off.
I mean, porta potty is great. When I was doing it, we had a shovel.
Yeah, I know, right?
So this is an upgrade.
Just a bucket, really.
Awesome. All right, thank you all
Yep.
so much. Have a nice
Thank you.
evening.
Program,
Thank you for your time.
I was just saying thank you.
Yeah.
it's good to hear some Carlisle folks are doing it.
Yeah,
Yes,
definitely.
yeah, that's very good, because we could have run into some flack otherwise, I'm afraid. Town administrator, additional, do we have any additional information on any of
We do
those?
not this evening. Both the Board of Health and the Planning Board said they would have some additional information in time for the meeting on the 24th. They still intend to provide the board with additional information in the hopes that you would agree to pass their requests on the Personnel Board. Personnel Board met last Thursday. I met with them, presented the requests that you did submit to them, and they, have started working on those. They've got a second meeting set up on the 26th. They're going to hear from the police chief and Council on Aging that night. So they understand the goal is to get through this, by October 15th. So they're going to meet until they,
They get it done.
accomplish that goal. However, we did put this on the agenda hoping we'd have that additional information on those other two requests that were not approved. But we didn't get anything in time, but they'd like to still present that information in the hopes that you would approve sending it on to the Personnel Board. But I think we'll be in good shape for the beginning of the budget process if they keep meeting every couple of weeks and kind of,
Yeah, and this is
plowing
an
through the-
easier, hopefully easier time of year for them to get their quorum than when we were doing it later
Right.
in the year when there's
Right, I
holidays
know.
and travel and.
and it'll help FinCom because this will
yeah.
happen at the beginning of the process rather than at the 11th
Ecstatic
hour.
about
and-
the possibility that they're going to have this information.
Right, right. So we don't really actually have any additional requests to talk about tonight. We will get more information, we're told, from both Planning and Board of Health for the next meeting.
All right. The update about the complete streets, I thought we had finish that, but I guess we didn't.
Yeah, and then there's a little bit missing.
There
so
was
it's only-
missing,
Yeah, it doesn't
yeah.
have the voting members.
Doesn't,
Um,
but aside from that, I didn't,
Was it
were there any,
double-sided
what
or?
other changes
Well,
were
it did in
there?
the packet one,
Oh, it did, okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
in the one that was on.
Maybe it
On,
didn't copy double-sided?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's probably,
Since I never read that, I-
Okay,
Yeah.
not in here in the hard
Yeah.
copy, okay.
yeah,
I just have a couple of comments, if I may, on this.
yes,
I think this is great. There's two things in here that I think make it, so that it kind of expires, and I'm wondering if we want to write it a little bit more open so it can be an ongoing
Mhm.
charter.
Okay.
And so number one, I'm wondering if it, if it should say, implement approved projects, including
Such
the
as?
complete streets project, so that if other projects come up, we don't have to
Yeah, you mean like
revisit this and
pathways.
add in
yeah.
other.
Because there is additional funding going to be available.
Right, and so that just keeping that a little bit more open so it can be ongoing.
So you say, I'm sorry, what was your wording? So,
Implement approved projects.
yeah,
You know,
including complete streets?
for instance, the Complete Streets project.
Okay, for instance. Okay.
yeah.
And then the other one was down in the last paragraph on the first page. I think we just say that they're appointed by the board as selectmen for 3-year terms, and we don't.
Oh, yeah,
put
yeah, yeah.
ending.
Yeah, no, I just had that in there. Yeah, sorry. I can tell you
Oh,
right
yes.
now, the current group is not gonna stick around for 3 years. But, some people will. I mean, some people might, but, I think we needed to put a time frame on that. I think 1 year is too short.
It is,
And 2 is just weird.
yeah.
So-
Yeah, it's fine, people resign from them. all
Yeah,
the time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
who have you got on the committee?
So we've
at
got
this point?
quite a strong one.
Good.
So me, well, but David Friedman agreed. Lee Storrs agreed. Jan Corneal is on it. Annette Lee and Kathy Keller, both from Historic.
Oh, wait a second, I thought Jan Kinnear was a non-voting.
Yeah, she's technically non-voting.
Gary.
Okay, oh, so
Yeah.
these three are still, okay, when you say technically non-voting,
Well, we haven't actually approved this yet.
It's not
So
really, not
So
a
if you
committee
guys
yet.
want to move people around. So the voting members are me, so somebody from the Board of Selectmen.
yes,
And then 2 residents, citizens at large. And those would be David Friedman and Lee Storrs.
oh, and Lee Storrs.
Yeah. And then it's, Gary Davis, Chief Fisher, Chief Soros, or actually Bert's been.
Bert Rubenstein.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Bert's been coming. Tim is on it.
Yeah.
2,
And
3,
Yeah,
4,
Luke,
5,
Gary.
6.
we're going around the table.
Luke, Tim, Gary,
1,
Chief
2,
Oh,
Fisher,
yeah, that's
historical-
7.
Chief who
Historical
resigned,
Commission.
That's
been
7.
coming,
David
too.
and Lee.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so those are the 7 that we currently had as voting. And then, Jan, Annette, and Kathy.
So master planning, so, oh, yeah, and we have members, but it's really the slots are
Right, exactly.
master planning,
Right.
historic, what, you have
Right.
2 from historic?
Yeah, so we did that just because they're both, they're co-chairs right now. So we probably only need 1 from historic. But also too, because this is in the center, the historic district.
Yeah.
That's why
Yes.
we felt, make sure
Yeah.
we get the input. But the idea was that, since they're co-chairs, they're both obviously more than welcome to come. And they've actually both been at all the meetings, right?
Yeah, we just
So,
have-
but we want to make sure historic is represented. So.
Okay.
And then, what we might want to do down the road is get somebody from planning. But, David kind of fills those shoes incredibly well right now.
Yes, yeah.
So that was the
Yeah.
only other thing, was that,
Okay.
maybe we should have a planning board member. And I think ultimately, one of the 2 citizens at large, right, we could always have it just be somebody that's on the planning board. But, yeah.
It's a great list.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah,
So-
it's a good team.
Do we need to have this come back again, or couldn't we just vote this with the amendments?
Yeah, I think we can vote it
I
with.
mean, this is like the 3rd or 4th time we've looked at it, and
Yeah.
I don't know that we need to see it
Well, this-
again.
Yeah, so this was the major revision, right? So I mean, ultimately, we incorporated
Yes.
just everything into this.
Yes.
We don't have those 3 different committees anymore.
Right.
So,
Right.
Yep.
Okay?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
You
open
wanna
to
make
a motion.
Luke?
The two changes are number one.
Yep.
And the no date.
And no date. Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. I move that we approve the Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Committee Charter. I guess it would be dated.
As amended.
Yeah, as amended at the September 10th, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting.
Second.
Good.
And
Any-
we should put a date on this, just so that we know what.
Yes.
Yeah, so September 10th.
Yes.
I'll do September 10th.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's good. Another thing done.
Yeah.
Get that off our,
And I will
Well
give
done,
a.
Luke, and getting a good
Yes.
committee
You
wanna
up
talk
and
at all
running.
about
Yeah, well, you twist
Thank
enough
you.
arms, you know,
Yeah.
or cry enough, yeah.
yeah.
People don't like to see me blubber.
Luke, did you want to?
I
you wanna
think,
talk
I'd like
I'll
to
do it
wait
during the-
till
Okay,
8:15
me
to
too.
do the
Oh, great.
town
Copies of
meeting warrant, in case there's anybody who wanted to come to see that. So let's skip ahead and go to the appointments and resignations. I'm going to need, we have two people for which we need to thank them for their service.
I vote not accept Priscilla Stevens.
No. I second
So
that.
you're also not letting them move?
Yeah.
That's right,
And you still have to report for the mosquito?
that's right.
Okay.
You know what, you could report, you'll probably report on the school in Concord then. No? Okay. So, yes, please.
I'm
I
fine.
move that the
good,
Board of
thanks.
Selectmen vote to accept the letters of resignation as submitted from Priscilla Stevens from the Cleveland Public Library Trust effective August 31st, 2019, and from Peter Gambino from the Planning Board effective September 6th, 2019. And thank them for their tremendous service to the town.
That's right.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, and I want to point out to everybody that we didn't accept their resignations with gratitude for a change. We stopped doing that.
With great reluctance.
Yeah.
Okay, I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to appoint Maureen
Yeah, Burse.
of 76 Wolf Rock Road to serve on the Carlisle Cultural Council with a term expiring on June 30th, 2022.
Second?
See, these are what we can do with gratitude, right?
Okay. Any discussion? That's our second member on that committee from the same street. It must be infectious over
Very
there.
cultural street.
Yeah.
Frank Sargent's on there also.
Yes, okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, thank you. Cemetery deeds. Number 7.
Yep.
Just one.
I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to transfer land in the public burial ground to Allison Becker of 43 Prospect Street at the Green Cemetery, Lot D111, Grave 3.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I don't ask for discussion on that one. I don't think we're probably, I'm assuming there isn't any. Okay. Town administrators report.
Okay, very good. If I could suggest we go out of order, I know that there's someone here that wants to speak to the request for the one-day beer and wine license.
Okay.
Is number 3, the report, if,
Oh, sure, absolutely.
sure,
Yeah.
come on forward. Sorry.
That's all right.
I'm representing I'm Giovanna Di Nicola, and I'm representing the Carlisle Garden Club. We would like to hold a fundraiser on October 12th, Center Park from 3 to 5. The goal is to raise money for plantings at the Rotary in town center. I just want to put a plug in for us. We found out last night that we were awarded a $1,000 grant from the Massachusetts Federation of Garden Clubs to spend on plantings for the Rotary. And that's, contingent on us raising additional funds. So this is it's the town, the public will be invited. It's from 3 to 5, as I mentioned. We'll have games for the kids. We are asking, Ferns is donating alcohol, their wine, and also a wine educator. The garden club, 2 members will be, will be tip certified. And I think that's it. Have any questions? Anything you'd like to know?
And just for everybody that's watching, tip certified means, explain that.
That we've read all of the, Massachusetts regulations about serving alcohol, and we can serve, and we're certified to do that.
You know when to ask, you know to ask for ID, and that you know to tell us
Right.
somebody's getting
What-
drunk.
Okay, so,
Right, I think
yes,
that's-
when I take
yeah.
that certification, I'll know that. Haven't done that yet.
Okay.
First, we need your approval.
I see, got it.
And
Got it.
are you providing the liquor liability insurance certificate, or is that coming from Ferns?
Normally, we don't,
Oh, well, that's what the motion includes.
yes, I know, but
No, Ferns is not involved in the
Yeah,
alcohol.
and that comes usually, and that comes after the, yeah. They get the license, then they can apply for the, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
We need to have some kind of insurance.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And-
The
But that'll be your
host liability
responsibility as
insurance.
the garden club.
Yeah.
You'll do that,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay.
And, oh, here it is. It hasn't been signed off by the police yet.
Oh, I thought it was.
It was. Didn't we sign one? It
No.
was in the electronic.
I can check.
Okay. All right, as long as you tell me it has, because normally I don't like to see these come to the table unless
Yeah.
it's all been signed off beforehand. I mean, we have done it contingent on, but it's
Sure.
neater, a little tidier if we have it done
Yes.
before. So, that's okay.
I wonder if I put it in
No.
Jim's packet.
It's not this one.
I think I put it in your desktop packet,
Oh.
although I replaced it that way.
Okay.
Okay.
So Tim's more special
It's really there.
It's my fault.
And I guess when you check yes for has the approval of the property owner been obtained by giving this license, we're kind of
B.
approving.
Property owner.
We're also
The owner,
approving,
yeah.
Well, I guess I was thinking it was Allison Saylor because she's involved with
yeah, it's a
Center
little
Park.
tricky.
Yeah, so,
But the
Don't worry,
Center
I'm
Park
just-
Committee said okay.
yes, the Center Park Committee,
said
a
okay.
resounding yes, yes.
We'll call them the owner for this purpose.
Yes, I
Right.
would too, but I just wanted to, that's why
Yes.
I'm questioning it.
Right, I move that the Board of Selectmen grant a one-day wine and malt beverages license pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 14, to the Carlisle Garden Club for an event to be held at Center Park on October 12th, 2019, from 3 o'clock PM to 5 o'clock PM, a rain date of October 13th, subject to the applicant providing appropriate liability insurance certificate.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you can all attend.
Okay. Item number 1 refers to the town meeting warrant, so we can pass over that.
Yeah.
Now, item 2, this is a little bit of a technical issue, but because the original telecommunications project was subject to a debt exclusion voted by the town, there's a question as to whether increasing the cost of the project would also be excluded debt for the town. So there's a process by which the town can appeal to the state. Because the increase is less than 10% of the original project, that we could include it with the debt exclusion without going back to the town for another vote. So,
Except that we are going back to the town for another vote.
I'm a ballot vote,
Any-
I'm sorry.
Oh, with
Two-part
another
vote, yeah, the town meeting and the
ballot vote.
Because that's the way that the project was voted originally.
Okay,
But this would save the town the additional ballot vote if town meeting
yeah, I
votes
think
for
that'd be
the...
worthwhile.
Who caught this?
What's that?
Who caught this?
It came up in a conversation with town council. Yeah, we were talking about that, so.
Great catch.
Or otherwise, we would have voted it and it wouldn't have been, excluded dead. It would have been, yeah, on top of the levy limit, so. We have a suggested motion there, and actually, Jen has the form that the entire board must sign to,
Yeah, I read that whole form.
did you? Oh, yeah, it's in the,
I move that the Board of Selectmen execute Form DE-2 presented by Town Council this evening, and further vote to submit a request to the Division of Local Services to increase the amount of the debt exclusion for the Public Safety Communications Project by $225,000 to $3,186,100, provided the town meeting approves this additional debt authorization.
Second.
I just checking, is it DE-2 or DE-3?
it's two.
It's 2, okay, because
Yeah.
somewhere in everything I was
They had
reading.
both forms were in the guidance.
That's why,
But
oh, is
I
that why
checked-
okay, that's
Yeah.
why I'm just double checking, because I saw both forms in there, and I
Council
wanted to be
confirmed
sure
it's-
we had the
it's
right
the-
form on there.
It's the DE2.
Okay, that's fine, okay.
Okay, that'll be circulating for your,
We have, wait, we have to have a
Sure.
vote, we had
I thought,
a
Motion
a
and a
motion and a
second.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay,
Okay, I just want to be sure we were getting the right form, that's all.
there you go. And everyone has to sign that.
Nathan, could you just repeat for me the numbers, the cost increase, 2 million and what to 300, 180, 3,186?
225, no, it's not, I'm not giving you, well, you can add it, but it said the Public Safety Communications Project by $225,000 to $3,186,100.
Thank you. That's what I needed.
Okay. And
Now,
then-
are we supposed to be looking at this award CPS parking lot paving project?
I was just going to bring that up. That's not in my report, but I was going to ask if the board would
Yeah.
consider that tonight. I do have the contract for the paving of the CPS parking lot here this evening, and worked with town council on this because obviously there was concern that, if the solar project didn't happen, we wouldn't want to go forward with the paving at that time. So by awarding the contract at this time, and the motion spells this out, the paving project can only go forward if the Board of Selectmen issue a notice to proceed to the vendor, which is predicated on the Amoresco project getting full permitting and so forth, so that it can't happen independently. The board would always hold the control of the notice to proceed. And furthermore, if for some reason the Amoresco project, it seems to be going quite well, they're at the planning board now, if for whatever reason that didn't happen, council has put language in the contract, the board could terminate the contract for convenience, which means you could terminate it not for a breach of contract, but for any valid reason, and not pairing it up with the other project is a valid enough reason. So you're not committed to this paving project if the solar project does not happen.
And is there a reason why we need to vote on it tonight?
Well, Sunshine Paving, they've been good enough, I think, to hold their price until next spring. They've been asking, are we going to get a signed contract? So I think, in fairness, we could give them a contract. They understand that the rug could get pulled out from under them if the solar project doesn't happen, but I think that, they bid on the project in good faith. They're looking for a contract, something from the town that says, we're going to do this project for $220,000 next spring. So I think,
I can be made comfortable with it, but I'm just a little bit worried about voting on something that's $220,000 that's not on the agenda.
well, it doesn't have to be this evening. We could do it, at the next meeting as well, and just,
Well, it's on
Yes.
the agenda, insofar that's under the town administrator's report, we never publish.
I didn't, it's not, it wasn't one of the numbered
It
items in
wasn't
my
one of the
report.
numbered items, I see.
Right, I can bring it back next time. It's not that time sensitive, but I think, I did tell the vendor, we would try to get it done so they'd have a contract that they could rely upon.
And it doesn't lock them into that price.
They're locked into that price, and we're not locked in if the project doesn't happen.
Right.
Yeah,
But
right.
I mean, I just wonder, it's kind of like, when do we decide it's okay and when do we decide it's not okay to take something up that's on?
No, it's a big item.
We can do it next time. Yep, I agree.
That's a good point.
I'll put it on next
Put it
time.
on next time.
Yep.
I'm certainly,
We can wait 2 weeks.
in 2 weeks, I'm gonna vote for this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can tell them that.
Yeah, it was
yeah,
more-
tell
tell them
them.
that it was a technical
Mm-hmm.
thing, that we
always my
need to
fault
have it
again.
on the agenda.
No, you
Yeah.
can blame Nathan.
Yeah,
There you go.
I don't know.
Shoulders are broad.
One of the, okay, and I just wanted to mention another item not on the report. Is that,
My God!
is that we recalled that when the board voted the non-exercise of the right of first refusal last time, when David was here, and you voted it, but we didn't have the final language of the notice. We do have that tonight, so you don't have to vote. You can just, review it and sign it if you would. It's the council had to finalize the language. Their council had to finalize the language, but it's what was understood.
Are you okay with us signing something when it's not on the?
Yes, I'm totally fine with that, because we already voted on this.
Well,
This is like going into the office and signing. So the only difference is the book and page from what we saw before?
The book and page.
Okay, so I don't need to reread it then.
And you want to start these coming?
Oh, these guys.
All right.
And then just,
We'll come back around to the special town meeting schedule.
yeah, when we
Yeah,
do
when we've done that.
the discussion.
Other,
I did- If I could just talk about the schedule for a moment. You have a meeting here on the September 24th, a regular selectmen's meeting. The town meeting is Monday, October 7th. You do have a regular meeting scheduled for Tuesday, October 8th. I'm wondering if you would choose to meet ahead of the town meeting in the cafeteria and cancel the meeting on the 8th, unless we have a lot of business.
yeah, let's
Kind of play that by ear for
play
now?
that by ear, depends upon what we have for business, seems to me.
Because you won't hear from the Personnel Board until October 22nd, but, so we could see how that agenda's shaping up and then decide
Yeah.
whether you can get away with a brief meeting before our meeting. Okay.
Could we even continue our meeting after the special town meeting?
You mean at 11:30?
No, it's not gonna go. Yeah.
Well, we're going to do the complete streets thing after, right? So
Yeah, but
we're
it's
hoping
still, I mean, yeah, the hope is complete streets should be, there's not gonna be a discussion.
Just good, yeah, kind of informational.
Right, the information, the thing, and then,
All right, that's all I had in my report.
So what are we saying? We're going to keep the 8th on the?
Keep it for now, and
Okay, you gotta do the second page as well. We'll take a second to finish doing some signing.
I can do this if we're trying to burn some time. I was gonna do it
Okay.
during my liaison report.
All right, yeah, we'll do, oops,
But it works.
yeah. And it may be that nobody will show up for the 8:15 agenda item, but I hate to do it, and then if people come and
Yeah.
say that they've missed it.
Got the minutes too.
Yes. Okay. All right. So let's do the liaison reports.
$7,000 phone bill for Ted, wow.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, so, yeah, so here's some handouts from the Complete Streets, unofficial, official committee working group thing.
Take it down to Johnson.
So we've met, I guess this is, we met a couple of times to discuss the proposals and whatnot. And then it ended up, we awarded it to Niche. They have done some preliminary design, drafting of this sort of thing. Just to give people a conceptual idea of what it's gonna look like. So these were all things that went into the Complete Streets proposal. They were approved by the state, and they will be funded by the state. so just to give you a quick overview, so if you go to the second slide, so one of the things that we discussed at the committee, and this is gonna be something that's gonna come to the town. You can see it, that like cobbly looking material, so that's all, so the initial idea was, let's try and keep it as historic looking and Carlisle-like as we could. So cobbles were really the material of choice. Problem is, it's gonna cost $250,000 or something, just for the cobbles. So it's not gonna be possible. One of the things that we did discuss is for the islands, you know, maybe talking to the garden club and seeing if we could do some sort of plantings and whatnot. But this is really just to give you, everybody, an idea of how this is gonna
So
work for the traffic calming.
what about concrete pavers that would be kind of more the color of
Yeah,
cobbles at least? And they're easier to lay,
Yeah.
and they're just as tough.
Well, exactly. So ultimately, what's going to happen is the committee's going to, so we've actually got some other conceptual designs that we've asked Mitch to do, and we're going to present all of this at town meeting. And then we're going to have at least one, but more likely two informational sessions where there's going to be a back and forth and a discussion with folks in the community. And we're trying to get as many pieces in place as possible. Because, you know, there are going to be a million questions or none, right? I mean, that's typically the way it works out. So we're trying to go with as many options as possible. So there's cobbles and stamped concrete and concrete pavers and
Yeah, okay.
lines and, you know, painting, you know, so
As
there-
long as it's not solid bituminous.
Right, well, that's, you know, and that's exactly it. So, you know, we even talked about with the islands, you know, are we going to have grass? Because Gary said he has no problem mowing them. But also, too, could we find some sort of salt-resistant low shrub? Or I drive over in Cambridge every day. And they've got these grasses that I don't know if they're salt-resistant or drought-tolerant or what, but they look great. You know, and maybe we do something like that, or we get in touch with the garden club and see if they have some ideas. So it's still, you know, the feel of Carlisle still has a lot to be discussed. Ultimately, the other pieces, though, you know, the traffic calming bits where, you know, you can see the green where that comes out, you know, that's all going to be grass. And then, you know, you've got the other areas with cobbles and, you know, the black is the sidewalk or the pathway. You know, that's, you know, the sighting of the crosswalks. So those are things that are not going to be up for discussion, because those are, we've had two engineering firms now confirm this is how it should be designed. These are where the crosswalks should go. So ultimately, you know, when two engineering firms say, hey, this is the way to do it, that's, you know, we feel that's what we should go with. So, yeah, so this is basically what it looks like. The idea is to have an informational session at the special town meeting.
After the special town meeting. Is what
Yeah,
the moderator
after.
agreed to, yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be after the special town meeting while we have some folks there to discuss this. And like I said, two public hearings or, you know, back and forth type sessions. So I guess, yeah, any general questions?
No crosswalk by the library?
So the crosswalk at the library actually moves up,
Been moved.
Up as in closer to the rotary?
closer to the rotary, yeah. So the whole thing with crosswalks is line of sight, right? And right now what happens is, you know, people can fly right through that rotary, they're looking to the left to make sure nobody's coming in, and they're already through that rotary before they turn their head and see somebody in that crosswalk. What this is gonna do is it's gonna force people to actually go into the rotary and force them to go out of the rotary. So while they'll be looking to the left, right, if they stay looking to the left, they're gonna go up over curbing and, you know, and have problems. You know, so they're gonna have to look, slow down, look, and turn their focus back to right where people would be. You know, I'm assuming we'll still have the crossing guard and all of that. And the idea is that, you know, for now, we won't do the raised crosswalks, you know, because those cause logistical problems for Gary and whatnot. But there are funds to, you know, if we do decide to do that later on, you know, if this isn't having the desired effect, then, you know, those can always be modified, you know, without, you know, overall, without an overall impact on the rest of the project. You just cut it out and build up. The cost will be more because it won't be incorporated into this, but in the grand scheme of things, the engineering firms both felt that this would be enough to slow traffic, because you're forcing people to actually make that turn out and turn in.
Can I ask?
Sure. Yeah.
So, one question is just, in the initial plans that we saw the first time around, it included the end of Westford Road, and I don't see that in here. Is that no longer within the scope?
And
No, that didn't
I
get
don't think
funded,
Mitch
right?
did that. I think that was,
Well, it's that previous one,
Yeah.
it was
engineering.
the end of East Street, it was the Rotary, and it was Westford Road.
Right. So yeah.
That's also a terrible, terrible intersection.
Right, so
Oh,
that,
yes.
yeah, so that I don't believe got funded.
The whole thing, yeah.
No, the entire project didn't. No, so there was 400 and, we applied for 400.
one
No,
thing
we
that,
only got a set amount of money, but it
Yeah.
wasn't any particular part of the project that didn't get funded, it was just the whole project wasn't funded.
No, they
I think they
specified.
funded 3 out of the 4
Yeah, right,
projects
Yeah.
that were part of the
Yeah.
whole.
right. Yeah, so
So specifically, the Westford Road one was not funded, or was it I thought it was the lights that weren't funded, and that's why we had to go.
no,
Did that also wasn't funded.
yeah, lights definitely weren't funded. I don't remember the Westford Road
Would you mind
piece.
just checking?
Yeah.
into that?
Yeah, so one of the things that we, and this was kicked around just, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Casually, if you will, by the committee, is, what can we do here that will actually improve traffic? And some of the ideas are making it so you don't have to stop at the top of Westford Road, you just continue through, and you make the folks
Yeah,
that
they
want to
have
go
people
down
stop.
Concord have to stop. But one of the concerns was, when you come out of the Rotary into that, it's kind of blind. But, is there enough space there? So that would be, I think we discussed that as having a phase 2 or phase 3, because everybody realizes it's an issue. It's just, we don't have the
have you
data to
considered
really.
no left turn onto Westford Road and make people go through the Rotary and then make a right onto Westford Road?
Yeah, that's actually not a bad idea either.
That's what I do every time.
I do that
Well,
too.
I think a
because
lot of
just- it's-
people,
Yeah.
I know, but the thing is, we
that's
could
just getting
require
onto
that.
Westford Road.
I'm
Getting
just-
off of
yes.
Westford Road is still as.
Oh,
no, exactly.
yeah, the
and-
sightlines are horrible. It's scary.
Right, yeah, right.
Because of the wall.
Exactly. So the thing is, if you put that stop sign, and I think, and I may be misquoting, but I think John said that, Chief Fisher said that there's significantly more traffic at certain points of the day. Obviously in the morning, people are going towards the Rotary off of Westford Road. And, in the evening, people are coming out of the Rotary down Westford Road. And that left turn onto Concord Road doesn't happen nearly as often as people go straight. Right.
Yeah.
So, so it would definitely improve flow. But ultimately, it's the real question is, that left turn now onto Concord Street or Concord Road, right? And then, I think coming off of Concord, there's plenty of sight lines, Yep.
What's the purpose of
Oh, so,
restricting that on East Street?
yeah, so,
Yeah.
I will check, I'll get back to that in a second. I will check into that, the Westford Road, is it road or street? Westford Road.
Yeah, I don't understand that
Westford
either.
Road.
Okay, so East Street, this is part that definitely wasn't funded. But what's going to happen is Gary is going to repave, obviously, when this whole project gets completed, Gary's going to use Chapter 90 funds to repave it. And he wants to bring the paving down really past East Street. So one of the issues with East Street is that you get people, they blow out of East Street there, and actually, same sort of thing, they're looking to the left, making sure nobody's coming down Bedford Road, and before you know it, they're at that crosswalk, right? So the idea is to eliminate those 2 lousy crosswalks that are there, just get rid of them completely. And then, obviously, the one from the library moves up into the Rotary. So hopefully, that in and of itself will solve, that lousy crosswalk by the library. situation. But I don't know if folks have noticed, anybody that comes down East Street, though, I guess probably does, is that, and wants to take a left, is that that's not squared off with the street.
Yeah.
So ultimately, what ends up happening is, you get people trying to do a 110-degree swivel head to see, if they can actually turn left, right? So this squares that off, and it does the same sort of thing for the right lane. So Bert, who's on the committee, emphasized that we really need to have 2 lanes there, because you can't have, the turning lane would block everybody that's just trying to get onto Bedford Road, right? So that's why we've got those lines there.
Yeah, the problem with that is that blocks the view of Bedford Road to the cars in that lane, and
So,
Yes.
right.
can't see.
No,
Right.
but what happens is the turning car is going to be,
This guy can't see.
is going to be
stopped.
Right, when.
right,
when
but,
there's somebody
okay, so he's
trying
going to be
go that
stopped
way.
before, yeah, so this line is incorrect. He's going to be stopped, that car's going to be stopped before the other one.
How's he gonna see
Right?
what's
So they're
coming up
gonna be,
Bedford
they're going to
Road?
be staggered.
Ah,
Well, that's just it. So he'll have to wait, It really, it ultimately, it impacts the people making the left-hand turn. But then also too, this area, it's not hardscape, it's actually painted. And
white lines?
The white lines, yeah. And the idea is that paint actually deters a lot of people, a significant portion of the people from you just cutting across it. So, trucks and stuff can still make that turn. And obviously, you're still going to get some people who will cut across the paint. But it'll prevent that just zipping up, looking and going, that rolling stop. It'll actually, people will be a little more inclined to go up and stop at the line, especially if there's a car in front of them, right? If there's a car up at that line, the guy behind isn't going to come zipping by.
He won't be able to,
Yeah.
he won't be able to tell whether there's anything coming or not. If there's a panel truck on that left-hand
Oh,
turn,
yeah.
you can't tell whether
Yeah.
something's coming down Bedford Road. It's hard enough now.
No, right, but so that lane is going to be back, right? So
But how are they gonna see
Then
what's
how are
coming
they
on
So the
gonna
Bedford
turn,
Road?
well, ultimately, it's going to have to be, Mitch explained why this would work. Because they do that all the time. I mean, it's not,
Well,
There's a lot
I
of
do that
intersections they do
every
all the
day,
time.
several
Don't
times a
work all the
day,
time.
and you can't see.
no, you
Yeah.
can't see now, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So the idea was that, you straighten out the turns with Bedford Road. You actually make it perpendicular to Bedford Road. You have that paint, ultimately, people are going to cut that. But
Can we put rumble strips there?
well, so this isn't anything that's funded yet. So the only reason we're doing this now is really as a test. So there's really no, other than this grass area that's going in here, there isn't anything being spent on this area. Because this part wasn't funded, the pathway was. But this part of the project wasn't. So we want to see if this actually works. And if it does, then that might be a phase 2.
We'll have to check the sight lines, but.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
I think that's dangerous.
This was in the initial proposal from.
Yeah.
It was.
Right, and it was
Yeah.
a problem then.
And it's
Yeah.
the same thing that was in for Westford Road, was the same type of concept.
Same type of concept, yeah.
So the only thing missing here is that because it wasn't funded, which I didn't realize, but because of that, we're just gonna do white lines rather than actually
Yeah.
change the hardscape.
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
So my one reservation is the loss, this was a crummy crosswalk here. But if you are walking around the block, for instance, so to speak, and you want to go from here and then go that way onto East Street, you have to go way past on foot. And what I'm worried about is pedestrians are going to start
Just start crossing.
jaywalking.
Yeah, so,
And-
right, so that was actually something that was brought up, when we lose that, people have to go all the way up here.
Yeah,
And-
where it is now is terrible, because now,
Right.
because then you have to cross here, and then this is scary, this curve here is even.
No, exactly, so then what can actually happen is, this area, because this is all gonna be sidewalk now, and this is squared off, and you're not gonna have those people just kind of zipping
Yeah.
through. We may be able to pop a crosswalk in here. That was just, again, more
Yeah.
casual conversation, because if people did recognize that, yeah.
Because you're on this side of the street already, you're not on that side, because there's no sidewalk over
Right.
here. So you're on this side, and you want to
Get over there.
get over to
Yeah.
here.
Right.
And so it kind of almost makes sense to have a crosswalk.
Right, exactly, but you have to do something about, because that, the face of that street is crazy wide,
It is.
And that's ultimately where the problem is,
Yeah.
because you get, these cars just kind of come whipping through. And, if they're looking left, they're not going to see anybody in a
Well, and
crosswalk.
the other thing that's happened several times at this intersection is people turning left onto East Street
Yeah.
tend
Well-
to not actually make a true left into
Right.
into this thing,
Yeah.
to the
Right, they
the lane, they
Right.
cut across, and
They cut across,
I know
yeah.
that people have gotten hit.
Yep.
Their the front end sheared off,
Yeah.
because people have cut that, made a lazy turn.
Yeah.
So anything you can do to square it off
Right.
is good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'm just concerned again about the pedestrians in that whole mix.
Yeah, exactly. And also, too, what happens is, when people stop to make that turn, you get impatient drivers behind driving up on this poor guy's
Yeah.
yard. Well, I guess it's a pathway now, but like you can see the rut that, I mean, it's, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's, a lot of that is trucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who can't make the turn. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's that
Oh,
too,
oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's also people just go up because they're passing the car turning left because they're being too impatient to wait.
Yep.
But yeah, it's basically forcing people to make true right-hand turns and
Yes.
left-hand turns, 90-degree turns as opposed to,
Yeah, we're no longer in wagons. I mean, wagons
Right.
couldn't make those 90-degree turns. That's why we have those things.
Yeah.
But they're terrible in a car because you actually don't have the same visibility.
No,
You really want to
exactly.
be able to see
Yeah.
left and right.
yeah.
I think it's a great job, Luke. I think it kind of respects the historical nature of the
Yes.
center of town.
Yeah, and this, obviously, the committee's been great in all of this. The focus is really on safety, but yeah, you want to preserve the historical character. We did discuss that pole, the infamous pole, but we're looking at,
Yeah.
it's like 7 figures
Whoa,
to start
to bury it.
burying stuff. Yeah, it's crazy
Hey,
money.
you know what? It's historic too, because
Yep.
historically, that's how we used to do
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, so the hope is that, we'll get the information out there. This is far from complete. Haha, no pun intended. And then we'll solicit public input. We'll get some feedback and hopefully get some people who will want to, maybe the garden club, hopefully, can turn some of those pavers into green, either grasses or, the problem is they're going to get plowed, and they're going to get salt and sand and everything on
I'm
them,
gonna turn
so.
them into green.
Yeah, so I don't know what'll actually make it, but,
Yeah, 'cause how high is the lip gonna be on these little,
it'll be your standard, 6-inch,
yeah.
4 to
Yeah.
6-inch curve, I think 6-inch, right?
And I really hate to put more stuff that has to be maintained, so
Yeah,
pavers are good because,
right, yeah, so, and then signage and all that fun stuff.
Great. Thank you.
You can use stamped concrete.
Could you send one of those to the mosquitoes so Betsy can have it beforehand? or-
Sure, yeah, I think Helen
I don't have to
actually,
explain what I'm writing here.
yeah, I think Helen actually has it, because Helen was at our meeting. Well, I can send this to you,
Better to email it, I think, but
yeah,
Take the hard copy.
probably reproduce
much.
better.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's, thank you, Luke. We're going to move on to our 8:15 agenda item, and then if there are any other liaison reports, we'll circle back to those. And the 8:15 item is finalizing the October 7th, 2019 special town meeting warrant.
Okay, you should have the latest version of it, of the special town meeting warrant. We passed that out before the meeting. We are now up to 5 articles in total. The telecommunication tower being the main purpose for the meeting. But we now have 4 that fall into the necessary category that, since we're having a town meeting, makes sense to do them now rather than wait until the annual town meeting in the spring. So I can go through those articles with you. Article 1 is an article that would allow adjustments to the fiscal 2020 operating budget. The only contemplated adjustment is in the area of vocational education. We had, or found out that we had an additional student going to Minuteman Regional High School after town meeting, so the appropriation was not adequate for 3 students to go to Minuteman. It was enough for 2. So we have to increase the vocational educational line item. I think Priscilla is working on the final number. I think it's close to $40,000 or $50,000 additional that would be needed there. Article 2 would be accepting a portion of Chapter 41, Section 111F, with respect to injured on duty, injured police and firefighters that are injured on duty. And if you talk to Chief Fisher lately, you know he's had quite a problem with officers injured on duty and having to manage the budget complications that come with that. We do have insurance for those situations. However, when the insurance payments come in, they have to go into the general fund. The police department or whatever department can't take advantage of those funds and pay wages. It comes in as a local receipt. And by adopting this, the town would set up a special indemnity fund where any insurance proceeds for an injured officer would go into that fund, and then the police chief or the fire chief could use it to pay wages and other costs. So it would be a real, a better way to handle it, and it would to take some of the pressure off of the budget, because, you know, as I said, if you've talked to the chief, it's been a real, the last year and a half, it hasn't always been the same officers, but he's always had 2 or 3 out at a time.
Yeah.
So by accepting this portion of the general laws, it would allow the town additional flexibility where that's concerned. So
So is it pretty much a what goes in comes back out, or is this a fund that could potentially grow? I mean, I'm just wondering, should we cap it in some ways so that we don't have money in this fund that, you know, could have been used for other things in the general fund?
well, the only funds going into it are going to be from proceeds from insurance and so forth. So I think I'll talk to council. Maybe there's a cap we could impose at town meeting, or I think it'll kind of, you know, seek its own level, because the funds will come in and then will be going out.
So in general,
Compensation.
the inbound funds always match the outbound funds?
Well, not totally,
No,
but,
There'd probably be less.
yeah, but maybe 75 or 80%, you know, they'd be less, but it would help, rather than coming out of the general fund appropriation.
Yeah, and also, too, I would think it would be easier for the chiefs to track it, right? You know, because they could actually see,
Right.
as opposed to saying, oh, how much is in there now? You know, so that if they needed to be creative with how they staffed. You know, because ultimately, that's the thing, you have an officer out, you have to have an officer in the person's place, right? So, yeah, so I mean, knowing how much is in there, maybe, you know, they could adjust how they, you know, they use a younger person as opposed to a more senior, yeah, but I don't know how they have to divvy it, if they have to offer senior first, you know. But anyway, you know, maybe it allows him
Never
some
make a
flexibility.
selection based upon age.
No, seniority.
Got
I
it.
did not say age, seniority. So that, I don't know how it, I don't know how it works in terms of the police department, you know, if they have to ask the more senior personnel first, you know, because then maybe he can't be as creative. But either way, I think it would help just for him in terms of budgeting, to know how much is there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it looks like he's overspent his budget when
Right,
he
when
hasn't.
he hasn't.
And he hasn't,
Right.
right.
That's kind of the-
Article 3, we've been asked to revote a portion of the town's revolving funds. When the Attorney General approved the various actions taken at town meeting, that comes back to the town clerk's office. The one item that they asked to be corrected was that the revolving fund is now a bylaw, so the bylaw had to be amended to add the new Deer revolving fund. And we had, the Deer Fund was listed and the funding, we had everything but the change to the bylaw adding that new fund. So this is a kind of a cleanup article that town council asked if we would include that so that we can fix the revolving fund appropriations for this fiscal year. Otherwise, we couldn't do it until next fiscal year. So that's in the cleanup category. And Article 4 is actually another revote of sorts. This is something that came up with bond council's review of the actions the town meeting took regarding funds that were borrowed at the town meeting. And the town clerk is here. She can probably explain this better than I can. There was a question raised whether the borrowing for 2 DPW capital items passed by the necessary 2/3 majority. And in looking at the tape, maybe you can pick up the story, Mary. You reviewed the tape of town meeting.
Sure. So basically what happened is that at town meeting, the moderator, who is extremely careful about everything, just stated that it was a majority vote, rather than saying it was a 2/3 and so declared. So he declared it a majority, but technically you need the 2/3 text in there, so that was just omitted, and so this is just to clean that up. The article itself was voted completely, but these
And the
particular
numbers.
things, because they're borrowing, need the 2/3.
And it was just a voice vote.
It was a voice
Yeah.
vote, yes.
Yeah.
So,
So those are
We'll have to
the,
dock his
Was
salary.
is it a unanimous
50.
voice vote by you?
no, he just declared it a majority.
Declared it a majority, okay.
right.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So the first four articles are necessary for one reason or another. Article 5 would be the Public Safety Communications Project, the authorization to increase the appropriation by $225,000 and adding the specific location of 1110 Westford Street to construct the fifth tower. You'll recall that the original vote specified 4 locations and appropriated $2.91 million for the project. This would increase that by another $225,000 and would add the new location as a specific location that the new tower would be constructed on.
If we were to consider Nancy Pierce's letter and decide to declare this for
Well,
public safety use only, would that go in here, or would it go somewhere else?
I would say that, and we check with Wayne at some point, but I would think it's more appropriate to the motion that
To the motion than into the
That's made it
warrant.
than the warrant
I think
article.
you're right, but I just wanted to,
Because the motions are much more specific, as you'll recall, and that, the board or anyone could, it could be in the board's motion, or anyone at town meeting
And
could
I think we need to
amend the
have a chance
motion to include that
discuss this.
language.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that,
that-
check what the law says.
Yes.
They'll need to
Yeah.
be voted, yeah.
Yeah.
And technically, who owns the tower? I mean, is it us?
Yeah.
Oh, it is,
yeah,
okay.
if we build it, it would be our tower, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know if it still fell under us or if it became public safety, if it's
Oh,
ultimately their tower?
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Whose
The
tower?
town's
I think that,
It's still the town tower.
Is it?
tower.
Town tower?
It's the town's
Okay.
tower.
Yeah.
On
Right.
town property.
Yeah.
We can pay, we can charge them rent,
Would we charge
charge
the,
the police department rent.
I would be very surprised if we were to. I mean, that's why we're trying to build this, so that we don't have to pay
Yeah.
rent for our tower.
I think it's a great idea. They can use this new
The new way
revolving
of
fund and
funding.
just.
Yeah, we'll just take it all. That'll be their payment.
Okay.
all right. So those are the 5 articles that are on the draft warrant at this point. I know there are other proposed articles that have been circulating. A couple of them were in your packet, and we have some
Yeah,
others,
I think we should talk about
suggestions
those
tonight. So you probably want-
separately.
Okay.
Well, I'll just say that I brought up a couple of these things, wondering if, since after the last couple of town meetings, we have, in fact, Wayne is, more specifically, has, wondered, gee, should we do 2 town meetings instead of 1 regularly, so that we do our financial stuff in the spring, and we do more of the bylaws stuff where people's interest is flagging, and it's getting late at night, or it might be a second day, and then and maybe we should consider breaking these things up. So, and I was thinking, since we were having a special town meeting in the fall, maybe this would be the time to do, some bylaw things. Well, as it turns out, we are going to do a couple of cleanup things anyway, and I think these are non-controversial, hopefully, and cleanup. And we certainly don't have enough time this time to discuss things, the sort of things that I think would properly be at a fall town meeting where we just start to institute it. Because some of these, need a lot of discussion. But I wanted to bring them up now because I think we have to kind of fish or cut bait on this 2 town meeting thing or not. And if we decide this is a way we want to the direction we might want to go, now would be the time to start working on some of these bylaw changes, to get them onto a town meeting a year from now.
Yeah, for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so people have started to, bring me suggestions. One is to change the term for the town moderator from 1 year to 3 years. Another one would be maybe to have an appointed town clerk instead of, and
We
then
tried that.
we did, several years ago, but that was a different time, and,
Yeah.
the other thing is, and I don't remember who it was that pointed it out to me, but whether it was town council or Wayne, but we have not had a comprehensive review of the town's bylaws in the last 20 years. And maybe now, in the fact that we're doing a new master plan, that maybe now is the time to start looking at some of these things and thinking about creating a working committee or committee, review committee for the bylaws to start getting us up and running for next year.
Yeah.
So that we would do a comprehensive review instead of,
And just the guy.
piecemeal.
Yeah, no idea, but you got him on the complete streets.
So I'm just putting that out there. I thought this was a good time to do it, to get people, the juices flowing, conversation rolling.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to, think about having 2 town meetings, and especially because some of those bylaw things, just they kind of really drag out. And, yeah, I mean, it'd be good to have, more focused discussion kind of throughout the year. Because also, too, it seems like what happens is some of the bylaw changes get thrown in at the end, and then they go up at town meeting, nobody knows what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, even the people that present it sometimes get confused. It's like, oh, God, so that, because it just gets too rushed. So
Yes.
if you could just focus on, and that's not to say we won't have any in the spring, but ultimately to focus on some of the more involved ones.
Like the marijuana.
Well, like the
Like the
marijuana,
marijuana
that was a
one.
mess,
That,
Yeah,
that turned out to be kind of
right,
difficult
Right.
situation.
yeah.
And I think in terms of, also the preparation for the presentations, you're busy doing the budget, well, we are busy thinking about the budget, and then you're right,
Right, we
the
can't focus on
bylaws
the
kind of
bylaws,
are like an afterthought, because we haven't had a chance to focus on them. So-
Yeah, I think it's, as long as we always have something exciting that's going to draw people to the bylaw meeting,
Yeah.
right?
Well, we'll put the deer in
You
everything.
know, I think if some town meetings, I've been on the board of selectmen for 5 years now. Sometimes the town meetings go pretty quickly, and there really would never been a need for a fall one. So I worry if we say in the fall it's gonna be bylaws, and in the spring it's gonna be all budget stuff, then we might end up complicating it. But I think just letting the town know, hey, we're gonna always plan on having a special town meeting, and therefore if we get around to where we're coming up with the warrants for the spring town meeting, and there's just too much on it, we just go through and we say, these things aren't time, I would say we don't just put the bylaws there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Obviously, we have to put all the budget stuff there, but, if we say, okay, these things,
Yeah.
these things aren't time sensitive, let's keep a couple fun ones that aren't time sensitive, and we'll declare in the spring that we're not gonna go 3 nights, we're gonna go ahead and have a special town meeting in the fall.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
yes.
you always risk not having a quorum if you don't have something to draw people there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, another benefit of a fall town meeting is, we could actually have 2 rounds of CPA. Because we have had people.
That would be a huge
Yeah.
benefit, because
Yeah.
some of these bigger projects, again, some of the exigencies of running a town government and doing business in town make it very difficult to plan.
Right.
And you have to have that, it would be really helpful to have like a reboot or a kind of.
Yeah, because we've
on
talked
some of
about
these
doing
things.
rolling applications, but ultimately, if you can't approve somebody until the spring.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, something comes up. I mean, Woodward property came up, and I guess it's that way, right? That way.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and there was something else that came up for CPA. But,
Yeah. Okay.
but the thing is, if people know, right, they won't try to rush to get something in necessarily for the spring, and they'll say, okay, let's take the time, do it right, and we'll put it in the fall,
Yeah.
so. So that's another benefit.
So with all that said, I would be in favor of adding the town moderator in there, because if we don't, it's gonna be 2 years before it's actually implemented, right?
Yeah, that's
Right.
why
Is that
I,
right?
that's why I was sort of in a hurry to do it.
Yeah.
But on the other
Attorney
hand,
General has to approve it, and then it goes on the next
Yeah.
ballot,
Yeah.
which if it's done in the fall, the next ballot would be next spring.
yeah.
Right, and so
Otherwise
if we
you-
don't do it now, then it's
Yeah.
gonna be the
Following cycle.
May of 2021 election where he
Right.
could be 3 years.
Right. I did have that conversation with Wayne, and he was the one that kind of talked me out of rushing to do it.
Okay.
He's willing to wait the extra year.
And what's
Do
the
you want to have
argument
his
for,
name on it again?
and what's the argument, why go to 3 years other than it just saves us,
It's the standard,
it's the standard?
and it is easier for the person in the position not to have to run every
Right,
single
no, I
year.
understand that part of it. I just was, people have asked me.
He's got to get nominated. he's gotta-
Because you know how it is
It's so
in town
hugely
where you make
contested.
a
It's-
change.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's,
But it
and
is
it's one
standard.
one or three is what the general laws say.
Right,
It couldn't be
exactly.
two, it couldn't be
Huh.
four.
One or three.
Oh,
One or
isn't it?
three,
Because two is weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
So are there any
Right,
other
so-
articles you'd add?
So not put the,
No, I'm just, but if you,
Town moderator.
what I would want to say is that if you think of things that you think we should be considering over this next year, please bring them, so that, people have already actually kind of emailed me. Well, there's also, if you want to put, there's the name of, the select
changing
board.
the name of the board,
uh,
yeah.
For instance, I've had a number of things kind of trickle in. I think unfortunately, we just don't have the time to do the right job this year, but I'd like to be getting started and not necessarily pile them all into the spring, because then I'm afraid we'll have the meeting from hell on
Yeah.
in
Well,
the
that's what
spring.
happens, yeah.
So like 4 articles and a presentation?
Yeah, for now.
Five.
Five.
Five articles and a
Right.
presentation.
The fifth one is the self.
Oh,
The reason for the town meeting.
The
Reason for the town meeting, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, the 2/3 vote one snuck in there. That's the one that's missing from this, right?
Oh, right,
You're talking
yeah,
about the one
yeah,
from
the
the
one we
pack.
handed out this evening. has
yes,
all
that's the
five
one
of
that
them.
got snuck. Okay. Well,
That's why I was saying 4, because it's only 4 here.
Right,
yes.
it's a late breaking.
That's a late. So we need a motion
Got a motion in my report.
in the report of the town.
Here, right here, I move, go ahead. Want me to?
Sure.
I move that the warrant for the special town meeting to be held Monday, October 7th, 2019, at 7 PM in the Corey Auditorium at the Carlisle School be hereby closed, and that it shall include the articles presented this evening by the town administrator.
Second.
Any further discussion? Yeah,
So
I
that-
thought we had already beaten it to death, but obviously
Well, no, I
not.
just want to make sure.
Anything can beat a little more.
By saying that it shall include the articles, that's including, should we say to include the 5 articles that were presented?
You want to be more
Probably.
specific?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just the 5
All right,
articles.
so we'd say,
accept that amendment.
let's see. And that it shall include the 5 articles as presented this evening by the town administrator.
That's correct. The town clerk reminded me of something we did want to point out to you tonight, that the first paragraph, you might have noticed a reference to Benfield Farms. It's the moderator's hope and intention to have a remote session of town meeting coming to you live from Benfield Farms that night. He asked that that be added to the locations of the town meeting. A number of things need to still be worked out before that can happen. So I did want to point out that that's in the, kind of the preamble to the warrant. I talked with town council, and he said that if for whatever reason that were not going to happen, it would be permissible to strike that out
Okay.
for the posted warrant, that was just not happening. But, it's, I don't know if the clerk has an opinion there, but I think it's there are some challenges with having a remote meeting.
So should it say and potentially at Benfield Farms?
Right, a lot is gonna depend on some things that are going on in the next couple of days,
Uh-huh. Like
whether
do they
that's,
have any-
whether
all
that's
that
a
stuff.
viable option.
Right. But so in here, should we say and potentially at Benfield Farms, or are we okay with it?
Wouldn't
I
wanna
think you could probably leave it the way it is, and then we can,
Strike it if we
Strike
don't
it.
need
strike
it.
it if we have to. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be more clear then.
Okay.
For the room?
Not supposed to, but they won't allow any chairs.
So that's right, no chairs.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're done with that. Are there any other liaison reports we missed?
We'll be attending the Board of Health meeting tomorrow night.
Yes. And I want to say also, you'll be attending and looking out for the Benfield
Yes.
things, but the other thing that will be discussed tomorrow night at the Board of Health will be the Triple E.
Yes.
And I've gotten a couple of letters inquiring about spraying. I don't think that's going to be our decision, and if it were, I wouldn't make that decision absent a very strong recommendation from the Board of Health anyway, so people should take, who are interested in that particular issue should be attending the Board of Health meetings, is what I'm trying to say.
And information has been widely distributed.
Yes, and meantime, in an abundance of caution, everybody should use common sense. Don't go out, between dusk and dawn.
Yeah.
Wear long sleeves, get your DEET, take care of yourselves.
By bats.
And yes, and make bat houses.
Yeah.
Any other liaison?
Yeah, well, just the note that we received from Chief Fisher, what was that about, actually, probably before the last meeting, recognizing Sergeant Barnes and Sergeant Booth.
Oh, yes, I actually
You did
brought
you
that
say
up last.
Okay, good,
But
perfect.
that's okay.
Yeah, no,
Let's
because
go ahead and do it again.
Yeah, no, because I missed the end, all of a sudden, everything broke up. But yeah, just recognizing them for going above and beyond. They really stepped up when the department needed it. So I think it was great that the chief recognized them, and I think we should recognize them as well. It's kind of what being part of Carlisle is all about, so we appreciate that.
Yeah.
Good news.
Okay. Anything, nobody else? All right. Minutes.
I just have one thing, is I was wondering if we could change it, not to focus it on me, but it says Selectmen Nathan Brown and Rick Escalillo attended the meeting by remote participation. We do say where I
You do.
arrived later.
Yes.
But could you just say that, for Nathan Brown, for a portion was remote, just so it doesn't seem like at the very beginning I got was remote the entire time.
Oh.
And I have one question on, under the town administrator's report in Monroe Hill. The town has been maintaining a small section of the provide.
Yes, I already gave her that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so, yeah.
I thought it was some
the road.
old-fashioned word for road.
And listen, this is not about the minutes per se, but it's something that's in the minutes, which is about FinCom sending out an FY21 budget letter by September 16th. Do we know, is that
They
in progress?
drafted it last night, and it's
Okay.
going out.
Okay,
You're ready to
great.
roll.
And does it have a cutoff on when the town warrant will close? Does it have a specific date?
I believe,
Well, the annual town, I think we're talking about January, right?
We were,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if,
Right up
they-
on January.
I believe it does,
Yeah,
and
good.
they,
They're going to send a proposed schedule, I think, to you, Kate. I think that's
Yes.
what Jim Dar said.
yes, I
Victor was
haven't
gonna
received it
yeah.
yet, but
Okay.
Jim, they said they were going to send a proposed, but I'm pretty sure it was adhering to this
yeah.
whole
Good.
thing. And in mid-October, they're going to be doing a 2-day session of hearings for everybody's budget,
Right.
so.
So we unfortunately won't get to see that letter before it goes out with those dates. We won't have.
I think we can circulate it. I don't think they'd object to that. Yeah.
And then, just for my information, so the Personnel Board will return the request that we passed on to them with the relevant information.
Right, whether they
And,
recommend a new grade for the ones
Right.
that,
and then
new
does that,
positions, and,
does that then come back to us?
yes,
Yes.
it does.
And we approve it or not approve it to be then sent to FinCom
To the
to
Finance
consider?
Committee.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay,
Yep.
all right.
But not necessarily approving it, we're just forwarding it then onto the finance committee to see the impact on the budget.
If you have a recommendation, I
Unless
guess I
we-
would go with that.
Unless for
but-
some reason we don't approve it.
Yeah. or-
Right, that's what I'm
Approve it.
asking. So we would actually have the authority to say, no, we don't want to send this particular one on.
Yeah, but
Right,
they're only
right.
gonna add in what we asked them to
Yeah,
add.
if you felt that it hadn't been justified, or
Yeah.
the case hadn't been made to,
Yeah,
for a new position, let's say, or
Yeah.
something like that, you could,
okay.
yeah, not recommend that.
Good.
Okay, I need a motion for these minutes.
I move the minutes of the Board of Selectmen's meeting of Tuesday, August 27th, 2019, be approved as amended.
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think that's it for our
So I guess
agenda.
the reason why I bring up being able to see the letter is just that, we were kind of vague about, hey, let's have it in January and everything, but when the warrant closes is really something I think that we really want to be driving. So it would be good for us to know
Yeah.
what that date is and agree to that date before it gets into that letter. Because there's a lot more to, because it's our,
Let
it's
Victor know
our
that
job,
you'd like to
right?
see, yeah.
That's our job, it's not, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna,
Right.
stomp on FinCom, but that's our job, not FinCom's job, as to what the schedule is.
Right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Okey-doke.
Well done. An hour.
Look at that.
Motion to adjourn?
I will.
Second?
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, I figured, when you made the motion about the minutes, I'm thinking nobody's gonna second it. So I bet. Might as well be here all night.